Nicole, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
I can hear you too. Ontario, like right at says 30 cent cost. It is awful. Order, please stand for pledge and open us up.
Pledge allegiance. Flag. States of America. One nation. Small. Us.
Here,
Present.
Baum, here, Ramsey,
Here.
Fritz,
Yep.
Narva, here, Shear,
Here.
Stein,
Here.
White, Wilson.
Here.
Mr. White is out for personal reasons. We did have executive sessions on June 9th for personnel and June 19th via Zoom for negotiations. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Borbaugh. Although our students have ended their school year, we still have a few items of celebratory nature that I'd like to share with the community. And before, congratulations to McKenna Malott, a junior at the high school, on being named 25-26 Mini-Thon Ambassador, one of just 10 students chosen across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. She was selected by the Four Diamonds. McKenna will serve as a student leader and the voice of Mini-Thon in schools and communities across Pennsylvania. She'll help support other schools through networking events and online platforms, all while sharing her passion for conquering childhood cancer and sharing how we run our Mini-Thon here at Spring Grove. Spring Grove area high school junior Ella Vaughn earned 2 gold medals at the 2025 PIAA Track and Field Championship, making school history once again. Ella was crowned state champion in 300-meter hurdles for the 3rd consecutive year and brought home gold in the 100-meter hurdles, setting a new Spring Grove school record with a time of 13.64 seconds. Congratulations, Ella. Congratulations to high school junior Brady Myers, who has been named Lenfest Scholar, and also Amelia Etter and Chase Guyton, who have been selected as Lenfest finalists. The Lenfest Scholars Foundation identifies and supports outstanding students who demonstrate exceptional academic potential, leadership, and commitment to their communities. As a Best Scholar, Brady will receive up to a $12,000 per year for 4 years to attend an accredited college or university in the United States. Amelia and Chase, as LendFest finalists, will receive $2,000 one-time award to support their college expenses. Congratulations to those students, their families, and their teachers that helped them with those honors. Congratulations to Caitlin Wassler, who recently received the Girl Scout Gold Award. The Girl Scout Gold Award process enables girls to help their communities, provide tangible benefits such as building professional skills, scholarship opportunities, network building, and monetary incentives for those interested in joining the military. And finally, congratulations to our Unstable Mind theatrical high school students on their recent placement as 13th in the World Finals. A great experience was had by the Unstable Mind theatrical high school student competition team. We congratulate those students and thank the community for supporting them and their families supporting them on their efforts. Thank you, and look forward to a productive, very busy summer as we keep plugging away here at Spring Grove. Thank you.
I do not have any correspondence at this time, so tossing it back to Dr. Bradley for the legislative update.
All right. I think we all have a keen eye on the budget process going through the state legislature and hearing from the various Senate and House leadership, and knowing that we're kind of at an impasse right now, waiting to bridge that divide and seeing if we can find some sort of compromise ground that the Senate and the House can agree on. However, there is a few other pieces of legislation that directly impact schools. One is, I think, a benefit to any student, any teacher candidate, or any current teacher looking to make themselves more marketable or more worthwhile to their present district. It's lowering the teacher certification fees. The legislation would ensure that no teacher certification fee would exceed $50. Additionally, this legislation was amended to ensure that members of the United States Armed Forces, veterans, and their spouses are excluded from any certification fees. I support this bill, and I feel that the district supports this bill. The House passed it unanimously, and we're looking for the Senate for further consideration. Speaking of veteran service and the experience that we can give to our veterans and credit them for some of their experiences, there's a new certification process working its way through the House and Senate that would allow for veterans who have service experience in a specific occupational area to count that experience towards the credit necessary for instructional one certification, specifically more towards the career and technical education fields. But ultimately, it would be a certificate that would allow members of our armed forces to get credit for that experience. And we, again, support that bill. And lastly, just, make sure that we keep an eye on the budget, and we did everything locally that we think we can do to be good stewards. And we want the state legislature to adequately fund education here in Pennsylvania. And we know that as a member of the most recent lawsuit, that our state legislature is making gains towards that. And we just encourage them to keep those gains to make sure that we're adequately funded here at Spring Grove Area School District. Thank you.
Tossing it to Mr. Ritz for York County School of Technology.
I was unable to make the last meeting. Our next one is Thursday. A couple little highlights is we had 100.5 years of combined service retire, which was 5 teachers and support staff. On June 10th and 11th, we had our career camp 2025, which had 280 middle schoolers attend to learn about 17 different technical programs. I don't remember if Mr. Brown is, but I think it was 36 Spring Grove students graduated on May 22nd.
Sounds about right. Mr. Ritz and I were trying to see where we ranked, and we were the second highest, although we're not the second most populated school district.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to our support of the program.
Yeah, that concludes my report.
And my daughter graduates from there tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Yes, nice school. Anyway, moving on to York Adams Academy with Mrs. Bond.
I have no report.
Okay. Great. A motion to approve the official minutes from May 19th, regular voting meeting, June 9th voting meeting, June 9th director study forum,
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the treasurer's report with Mr. Ritz.
Treasurer's report ending May 2025. General fund balance 20,043,168. I'm sorry, yeah, general fund checking. Nutrition service fund total, ending balance 1,678,766. Capital reserves total $1,506,130. The bond fund, $7,843,656. Student activities fund, $157,334. And then there's a list of balances for the different club balances on the last page. So move on the treasurer's report.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote on treasurer's report.
Question.
Yeah.
Miss, on First Capital, we have the May services. Is that for the YMCA or something we're doing? Just checking. It probably. Right. A combination of some submittals that they have, and I'm looking at Mr. Stiles to see he had. And there's going to be hopefully the majority of it people want to get. I can find, okay, I wanted to ask that earlier, and I forgot, getting to you. Most of these last couple ones have been, YMCA's. Thank you. I'll sort of see if I can find it.
We're done. Okay, roll call vote on treasurer's report.
Stein,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yep.
Baum. Yes. Wilson,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Rourke.
Yes. Right, moving into our departmental reports, budget and finance with Mr. Ritz.
Item A, accounts payable list, approval of the May accounts payable as presented, as listed 1 through 6. Item B, budgetary transfers, approval of the attached budgetary transfers for 24-25 fiscal year, as reviewed during June 9th director study forum. Item C, River Rock agreement for 25-26 high school launch program, approval to contract with River Rock Academy for services of a program coordinator to continue to provide and operate a launch program classroom at the Springfield High School during the 25-26 school year at a cost not to exceed $121,931. Item D, 25-26 federal, state, other programs and or grant summary. Authorization for superintendent and for his designee to enter in all necessary agreements to meet the mandates for the participation in federal, state, other programs and or grants for 25-26 as outlined on the attached chart. Item E, school physician for mandated school physicals, approval to continue to engage with Stephanie J. Elwood, Wellspan Family Medicine, East Berlin for the 25-26 school year. So moved on budget and finance.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Roll call vote on budget and finance.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yeah,
Shear,
Yes.
Baum. Yes. Stein,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Rourke.
Yes. Right, moving on to buildings and grounds with Mr. Ramsey.
Buildings and grounds board actions requested. Placement of the district walk-in cooler freezer storage. 2 options. Option 1 is approval to locate and install necessary walk-in freezer in the proposed maintenance building facility and continue building project planning to include the specifications for the walk-in at a proposed cost of approximately $100,000. Option 2, approval to locate the installation of the same walk-in cooler freezer, except it would be at the high school for $407,000. Letter B, SGE secondary access, road lighting and gate options. One is approval for 5 25-foot solar powered LED lights along with SGE secondary access road project by the school board of directors, March 24th, to 5 25-foot electric powered lights tying into existing electrical lighting at an additional cost of $500. 2 is approval to update from manual to gates of 12-foot road gates along the SGE secondary access road project to 1 12-foot electrical road gate tied into the lighting at an additional cost of $875. C is installation of the high school secondary access road. Approval of contract with Lobar Associates. Lobar Associates and install the secondary access road at the rear of the high school to Spirit Lane to include 7 light poles as proposed by the Buildings and Grounds Committee following the June 2nd Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting and for proposal. And base bid received from Lobar at the base cost not to exceed $1,125,561. Letter A, approved to upgrade from 725 total solar powered LED lights to 5 24 concrete bases along the high school secondary access road project. Included in the base price to 7 25-foot electric powered lights and tying to existing electrical lighting at additional cost of $500. B, approval to upgrade from the base price of the high school secondary access road and add additional site and excavating prep work during installation of the access road to include placement of a walking path at additional cost of $15,200. And C, approval to add a 650 foot by 4 foot sub base and paved walking path along the high school secondary access road consistent with the existing campus walkways and paths for improved safety for students and pedestrians at an additional cost of $35,500. When we get a second, I would just like a minute to walk through and explain a couple of these things because this is a little different than how we normally do it. But so moved on buildings and grounds.
Second,
Second.
all right, we're gonna, like Ben said, discuss how we're gonna vote on this, so everyone's clear on the process.
So with A, we have the placement of the walk-in cooler. And we vote and approve option 1 to put it at the maintenance building. That means option 2 will no longer exist. So there will be no reason. I'm sorry?
If
Yes, if option 1 passes, there will be no reason to move on and vote for option 2. So this is a little different than how we normally do it. I just wanted to make sure that was explained to everybody. When it comes to the solar powered lights versus the electrical lights, I will say that when we talked about this as a committee, we were recommending the electrical lights because with the solar powered, in the event we get 2-3 days of a storm or anything in a row, there's no guarantee that we will have the lighting. So from a safety perspective, having it be the electrical as opposed to the solar was the recommendation because after 2 days, I think is what they said, of bad weather, you may not have lights that work. And the whole reason why one there is for safety. When we move on to C, with B and C specifically, Ms. Sterner reminded me right before the meeting. B is to do a walkway at $15,200. If that gets approved, we will have a walkway that is done and is leveled out. But if we do C, you have to add B and C. So to have that walkway paved is the $15,200 plus the $35,500. So again, not to talk a lot, but that seemed relative because some of this stuff is done a little differently than we normally do.
Next questions. 2 questions on the placement of the walk-in cooler, and I apologize if you talked about it at the last meeting. I didn't see that in the minutes. 1, I was curious if there is a difference in timing. So if option 2, we go with that, would it be done more quickly than the building, like the actual buildings and grounds building? Does that make sense?
So option 2, and that's part of the reason why we pushed to do this as quickly as we did. If we are going with option 2 and we do that today, we have the ability to get that cooler and get it installed with the idea of that being before the start of the next school year, correct, Mr. Zach?
before the middle of August.
We're able to start that.
This-
Yeah, we're at least able to start that project right away because it is independent of the
I will,
master plan is what we talked about, I believe, at the last buildings and grounds meeting. So
so I'll turn everything over to Mr. Stiles, because, there's, Mr. Barshner and Mr. Ramsey, there is quite a bit of information that was talked about, as well as there's a couple questions concerning the timing, generators, also.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just hold my questions. You might answer.
Yes, so the walking floors for that high school is on the final phase of land development plan. The first phase, just bring your speaker, first phase has passed the planning commission at Jackson Township, which includes the high school to Springfield Elementary and parking the sidewalk for the YMCA project. The final phase for land development is following that through Conservation District and Jackson Township. And that's going to be a few months past that. So the engineer from CS Davidson projects that phase one should be through Conservation District by the end of August, beginning September. And at which time permitting can start the process for the road Springfield Elementary to the high school, as well as the parking and sidewalk. He projects that the final phase of the land development will be completed sometime December, January range. At that time, permitting to get started for the phase two, which is potentially behind the high school and the rolling forward. So the permitting can possibly start process end of January for the walking floors.
Did I think I heard you say that you also have numbers as to the difference? So I'm trying to figure out the cost difference. And here, it looks like it's 307,000, but I don't know if it's that simple and easy. If it's done first, you said the cost of generators, if we're gonna put it in the maintenance building, what would that cost be to hold the food until the buildings and ground, like the new building is built?
Yes, so additional information on the generator. We checked the generator capacity at the high school, and the generator will take the identical size coolers and freezers that we have right now. So it's listed on the list here, it's $100,000 for the generator at the maintenance building. And 90% is gonna be below. But to counter that somewhat, the electrical and the switchgear mechanism that would need to be installed at the high school for the new cooler and walk-in at the high school is going to be somewhere between 22 and 25,000 as estimate. So we're looking at additional 75,000 that could be taken off of that 307.
And do we have an idea of how much it would cost? Let's say we would go with putting the coolers into the maintenance building. That building, I doubt we can start by January, or we might have, I don't know. I have no idea when we can start that, but well, it's gonna take a lot longer to put into effect. So that difference, is it nominal? How much money would it cost for us to then store that food in the meantime until we have a place for it?
Yep, so to be realistic about things, depending on which way we would place the maintenance building, say we would progress the way that we're looking at it right now on additional land, that subdivision would have to be taken care of for that property to join campus property. And then another land development plan that could be submitted. So in realistic, Mr. Barshner, we're talking 18 to 20 months for that process to happen before we would be able to start the build on, if we would choose that property. Now, as far as the route of portables, 20 foot, 10 foot is basically 20 foot. If we're looking at 6 months or more, of course, if you do it less than that, the price of it. Just say we're gonna have to do it for 6 months regardless. It's 1,200 and 1,000 or a 2,200 and 10-footer to accommodate the freezer and the cooler. So we're talking approximately 2,200 a month.
And it sounded like that that could be a 2-year,
Yes.
that we've had those for 2 years.
Mhm. Yeah, and if we would still proceed with getting rid of the high school and looking to, at the end of January to February for IC or YMCA, we would still be potentially looking at close to 6 months, 4 to 6 months.
6 months anyway. You're gonna get it for 12 to 18 additional months, but up to 12 to 18 additional months if you do it at the high school.
And Mr. That's $2,200.
Correct.
So just say 20 months. And I'm just trying to take it off the $300,000 difference is what I'm trying to.
Like a 50,000-ish number.
15 additional months if you split the difference on the two.
Hmm.
So, because you're doing 6 months, no matter whether you do it at the maintenance building or you do it at the high school.
Right,
for
right,
6
six minutes.
So 2,700 times 15 is $33,000.
Yeah, the breakout for the 4 to 5 months is $1,400, and then 6 months or more is $1,150. Right.
Are there any setup costs or electrical costs? Are there any setup costs, electrical costs? You mentioned about the switchgear. If you put it up by the high school, do you need to get that switchgear as well in order to hook it up to the generator up there?
Are you saying for the portables?
Sorry, the portables.
The portables are going to be three-phase off of the building closest to where they're going to be placed.
So they don't need your switchgear stuff.
They do not. No.
We're gonna have to hook the,
The rental folks will guarantee that they'll keep that running.
that if there's a cost to hook it up, we're gonna need to hook it up under either scenario anyway. Because we're not gonna have anything done for the first 6 months, even if we wanted to. So any cost that you're gonna have for one, as far as hooking it up, you're gonna have for both of them anyway, so there's no difference between the two.
There's hookup, there's also delivery and pull away, and it's broken down, but
Yep.
regardless, it's going to be the same way for them.
Mr. Stein, the switchgear, that Mr. Stahl was talking about was for the walk-in coolers and freezers were placed at the high school. There is a request to say if we wanted these walk-in coolers to be added to the current generator. So that's the first step he first gave.
I see my switchgear is just the breakers.
But it switches
Turn on
from,
and I'll do the switching
right,
Okay.
and it switches over to generator,
automatically,
right?
automatic switches.
Confused on why it's taking so long, why to start that up at the high school, because that's all already permeous area, well, let's do an end goal. This.
Because we were requesting, that was the part of the projects we were requested, we need to put that on the plan development by Jackson Township.
Well, I'm saying, they're bullshit. And everything's already existing there, all we're gonna do is over and put another pad right there where this pad is, just raise it up. So
I agree, Rod. I really thought that, that was one of the advantages for me about the high school was I thought we were gonna be able to do that a lot quicker. But I'll ask you the question, Mr. Stiles. Do you have a recommendation of the two? Because I believe you said at the maintenance building is your guys' recommendation.
That is our recommendation.
You want to explain why? Is there, like, without going into it at length, is there a reason why you think it makes more sense at the maintenance building?
Yeah, that's currently that is our operation process, is having it near or in the maintenance facility for receiving and delivering the product, instead of looking at potentially going to a different location to receive and then deliver the product once a week.
So if I can ask this question, just to connect the dots, because it was asked of me, and I'm not trying to steer the answer, I promise. But we have people that are staffed at the maintenance building. So when a delivery comes, we will already have somebody there, and that is why we say it takes less man hours for it to be at the maintenance building, because we will have to have somebody leave and or go and wait for the truck if it goes up to the high school.
Correct. Deliveries usually happen before 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. So if we typically know that there's a delivery happening on Tuesday or Thursday, we would designate a guy or two to stay there and do some work around the shop until that delivery happens. It's not that they're, everybody's gonna be saying home and then say, oh, we need to get back to the shop after we just left there 20 minutes ago to unload.
Thank you.
But the difference would be if you had someone wait at the maintenance building, which is 30 seconds away. And then they see that the truck's coming at the high school and they just have to drive them. That's it. I'm just trying to understand the difference. And then does this include any sort of, because from what I remember for the buildings and grounds build or the maintenance building, that if the walk-in stuff, the freezer stuff wasn't there, would there be any reduction in anything in that building, like a size difference or again, I've not been coming to all these buildings around meetings, but like, is there a cost savings then if it wasn't in the maintenance building?
There is, and chime in, but I remember when I asked Jesse that question, I knew somebody wanted to know that answer. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was a small fraction of the difference between the two buildings. It was only like 30 or 40,000 bucks, I believe. That if we reduced the cost of the overall building by that 400 square feet, it was not a small number, but it was a nominal number in comparison to what it costs to move it up to the high school. Answering that correctly.
But the glass storage also would be going up to glass walls, right? So that's more than 40 square feet.
Correct.
400.
More than 400 square feet.
Yes, it's more than 400 square feet.
It's closer to 1,000 square, 1,100 square feet would come off of it. And if we figure the building right now, it's a $200 a square foot.
Yeah.
So I would hope if that's what it costs to build it, if we deduct that much, it would, they deduct $200 a square foot off of it, would be my thought process. So, and plus it is, really about $30,000. That's an additional $30,000 we wouldn't need to spend that. Right, okay.
Like you're the numbers guy. You were very quick with being able to add things. So that reduction times the 200, you have an idea of how many square foot?
Well, if it's 1,000 square foot, at $200 square foot is $200,000. Correct?
Yeah.
And at $30,000,
It's not that much. I understand what he's saying, but we asked this and I don't have my stuff with me. I apologize. I'm not trying to argue, but I asked what the number was.
that's how I would figure it out. And I don't know any other way to figure it out. Besides, if it's costing you $200 a square foot to build it, you should get a reduction of $200 a square foot.
So we started off with a $307,000 difference. That's what this numbers like here looks like, the very simplified version. But it sounds like $108,000 difference should like some of that should shrink, that 307 because of the $75,000 for switch generator. So $75,000 there. At least $33,000 plus or minus for that. So that's $108,000. And if the reduction ends up being, $150,000, I have no idea. I just don't know. But like that, this makes a big difference because then we're getting closer and closer to them almost costing the same in the broad scheme of things.
Just to be clear, that generator price is for the high school.
So go on the other
You
side.
subtracted it from, you added it to this.
The savings.
It's plus for
The
the,
generator would be, is currently at the high school.
Okay, right, okay, but the difference in two numbers would. Is that get bigger or smaller? That's when it gets bigger, that's when it gets bigger, just that one.
Right, so it's 75,000
towards putting those.
Can we take these numbers that we're throwing out, maybe use the whiteboard and list them up there with the
Then you
names
put it-
rather than,
I'm gonna do that.
so I have to keep them in my head?
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. The one that I wish I had the number in front of me. And I'm not trying to argue
In the
with the
minutes?
crowd. I'm sorry.
Was it in the minutes of the last building something too?
It was more than one meeting ago. It was a couple meetings ago when I asked that question and I did the same thing that he said. And when he gave the number for what it was, I was like, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, I mean, you gotta use. If it's $200 a square foot, and that's just what it generally costs to build any building. Of that type of, if that's the number. That makes sense if you, it's, doesn't matter.
But I right now, I don't feel, if I feel comfortable, I don't have the information for me to vote on it. Maybe I'm alone, but I'm like, we could be talking about a swing of $200,000. I mean, that's a ton of money. That's a lot of money for us to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the numbers we've seen before have been 2.3, 3.7, 2.5, but you just take 2 billion divided by 9,400 square foot is 212 a square foot. So I mean, that's still leaving a lot of money for maybe stuff that doesn't change and moving 40% of stuff that doesn't have to move. Because it's already at the high schools, obviously I'm not the guy doing it. But anything that I truck or move by hand or transport and I don't have to move 40% of it again is usually handy, but I'm not in this logistics circle.
Yeah. I would think that the cost of that building, the most expensive square footage is the core area. I mean, if you would look at the cost of that building and took the core out, I would think that would reduce the average square footage the most, because that's expensive.
Well, it's gonna be the same concrete floor building. They're just setting a cooler on it inside.
Okay, I'm
We're
not
setting
thinking,
it on the pad at the high school.
I guess if you're just looking at the shell, but
Yeah,
but if you throw the cost of the core in.
but that's gonna be the same either spot.
Yeah. Yeah,
We still haven't designed the building.
But this is the component that we need to decide to design the
Who
building.
designed the
To
building?
move this forward.
Yeah.
So this is the pivotal piece to move this project forward. Again, we reopen school in just a few weeks and we need a place to put food.
We're gonna have to run.
We're gonna get a
Well, yeah.
resident, right?
I know, but
We can't work towards the design of the maintenance building without making this
Correct.
decision. So we can't move that part along.
correct.
So, I am only one of 9 and I hear all of the questions. The part that was ultimately the tipping scale for me was asking you guys, what is it that makes the most sense for your operation, what you do every day? So, and I've heard everybody what they've said, and I'm not saying that anybody is right or wrong. So that's just, for me, doesn't matter to me if we save $100,000, we save $200,000. I'm not saying that I don't care. I just, if operationally, that's how you guys are set up. And that's what makes sense for you guys to do, and it's cheaper. That's where my head was at personally. But I wish I had the number on what the reduction in cost was, because I asked that question and I couldn't get it mathematically to work out the way that it's as simple as the square footage minus the number of square feet. I remember hearing the number and going, well, that doesn't make any sense. And when I just, not that this is the same thing, but when I just built my deck, if you're building it 9 feet or you're building it 10 feet, it doesn't change the cost by square foot, because you can buy a 10-foot board and chop off a piece. And it's the same cost for the board, whether you go 9 feet or 10 feet. So that was the equivalent explanation that I got from Jesse when I asked the question. Like, yes, it's $212 a square feet, but there's also things that just logically make sense at a certain point in certain sizes. So I don't know what everybody wants to do. I really don't want to not vote on this and get it done, because it is only holding up the stuff. But if people need more information, then I guess we also need to hear that part too.
Yeah, and if I can clarify, I know 2 weeks ago when we were numbers around, and I was asked if it was 60% of the food to the high school, and I did say 40%, but after reviewing my notes and looking at that, pulling the numbers off of the last 11 years, I think before it was 29.7%, so it's actually 30% of the food and dry goods that are for the high school that to get in.
Just point of order, Mr. Stiles, on 2 points. One, that those dry goods and those refrigerated goods, they still need to be moved at the high school. The food service workers, nutrition service would not be moving that, and they're still gonna be moved.
Yeah,
There's labor involved.
they would move it from the outer dollar area into their wallets.
Just you have to.
Yeah, you don't have to. And second, the square footage that you have under roof right now for dry storage and refrigerated and maintenance, how's that compared to any prototype that we've talked about since this process has been?
So the dry goods, we matched what we historically have moved for the last 11 years. The walk-in freezer, we increased that square footage, and the walk-in cooler, we decreased that square footage. Based on the last 11 years of ins and outs of delivery.
And the main reason that you want to keep it at the maintenance building is that's the way that it's always been done.
It is for the 14 years that I've been around here, and then it seems to work.
If we're gonna vote on this, I would really like to see some of those numbers we just threw out on the whiteboard.
With what the actual cost difference.
Yeah, see estimates. I mean, they're estimates. I realize that with the, square footage times 200 gallons. So if it's close, I just never thought it was, I don't care if the maintenance people do it or the cafeteria does. It just seems like if 40%, well, it started at 60, it's 40, it's less. It just keeps going down over the last couple of years. But still, to me, that amount of food, if you only have to move it around the corner, it just doesn't make sense to have to load it into the truck and offload it again. It just doesn't make any sense if the other numbers are somewhat close. And the maintenance guys, if they have to do it and they want to do it, and that's something they got to do, they can still do it. They're only a minute away.
What's the number for the switch?
25.
45?
Yes.
This one is at $12 square foot. What placeholder people want? What that, because those are the two things. Said $33,000 was the average between 12 and 18 months for the first 6 months we were in, no matter which option we did. So it said it was $25,000, and then we have to pick a placeholder. Do we have is it 600 square feet? So is 1,000 foot the number for cooler and
Dry storage and freezer.
dry storage and freezer?
That's running. I hate to say exactly what it is, because less needing done.
That's the number that really, so I came in wanting to just, whatever is gonna save us money, and now it's slowly shrinking as to where the money is saving. I'm kind of with Mike on the, it makes sense to have something in a place where 30% of the goods don't need to be driven around in the truck.
And just so I'm clear again, maybe I'm the only one who's not getting this. Bill, this is for Mr. Strauss. This $2,500 switch would not be a deduction. We need to.
Yeah.
You're all right. That's it. Here, you need to add those. Right.
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah, because it's only at the base.
We kept talking about credits and I know credit and.
these two net at -8. So even if this is $200,000,
It's 107.
then 199,000. Yeah,
Well, let's do option one, because you're saying $100,000, now we're at a generator in there, and that generator brings us how much?
The 100 on this paper.
For the generator.
Yeah, 100 for the per.
Now we're $200,000.
Option one is 100 plus 100 for the propane generator and 30 for the loading dock. So you're at 230.
Okay, good.
230.
Okay, so this is plus 35,000. For the guy. Saying how much for the generator?
They have 100 on this paper from Lobar.
Question says that
30, right, yeah, it says 30 on here. Sorry, Ben, if I
You're good, you're good.
speak ready,
Plus the 100,000 that's on here.
plus the cooler's 100, yeah, so you're at 230 total.
Then we should bring this.
Yeah, right, you should make that 407 to start.
Yeah. So -8 puts us at 399 minus 200, so we're 199. Good. Now we're two, no, that's not right, yeah, that's not right, because. This is.
It's 230.
That costs
230,000.
You're right, if we go with that square footage price, then 1,000 square foot, right?
I don't. Agree with that number personally, because I don't feel like it's what he said, but. If that is justification for us getting the right answer, and I feel like I'm speaking for everybody, and I feel like everybody would probably feel a lot better. Knowing what that number is, because.
Or we can do it like this, Ben, maybe we should use, they have all this stuff broke down, but they actually do have the two different building prices separated in here, so let me use that number, and I think it's gonna be a way different number, because that's only. The cheaper building is $573,400 just for building the building on a slab. Which comes up.
For the maintenance building.
Yeah, because obviously all this stuff is gonna stay the same, so maybe this is the way to do this here. It would be $61 a square foot if you use the pole building price. And if you use the prefab comp steel building. Is at 9,400 square foot. Is $75 a square foot.
So use the higher, right?
So what you just said. About that square footage, it's the number, and to be honest, I completely hesitated in saying this number because. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. That's what that. Was between 70 and 80,000.
Yeah, you probably.
So it
sounds
high.
Yeah.
So, and what you just said with the square footage based off of the square footage gets us really close to that number.
Right.
But I don't want to put it up there because there's $130,000 for here that can move either one of these.
Yeah.
So we can, I'm gonna say this, maybe y'all are gonna get upset with me, moving this on one pager with these numbers correct. Or I don't think we have.
Because if this is as it stands, if it's 70,000, so instead of 200,000, it's 70,000. So we are talking $130,000 difference, so that then goes up to
330.
Yeah, basically, you might as well make it 330, I mean,
we're looking at $100,000 difference.
Correct.
that's.
Based on our-
Numbers, 212.
But
can't be
so what I'm
right.
hearing is probably the recommendation is to table this and then come back with
those
with
numbers.
those numbers
Frustrating.
for the next meeting.
If anybody has any questions. So.
Yeah. What else do we need flushed out so we can vote on this at the next meeting? Nicole, do you have any specific
If we're getting
questions?
close here, then we should have an estimate on the logistics of transferring stuff around. Before we said it washed out, but it wasn't even close.
Oh, that's actually another. Oh, no, never mind.
But if,
It's too many things.
but if it is close, then the logistics come into play.
He does.
Right.
Okay.
So logistics would be the thing then.
All right. So Nicole has some thoughts and questions. We're not going to talk.
Yeah, and that's what I was, if we're gonna table this and obtain more information, I would really like to hear from Bill Stiles from an operational perspective, more detail around the why that he's looking to put the coolers and so forth in the maintenance building. Maybe operationally, we are not thinking about all that goes into it. 30-40%, I'm with the rest of the board where from a logistics perspective, it does seem that it would be much easier. So, but maybe we are not hearing all that goes into it operationally. So Bill, I'd like to hear more on why you're recommending moving the coolers to the maintenance building if that's possible.
Right.
So gonna make a motion to table A.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor of tabling buildings and grounds, the letter A.
Aye.
I
Thank you. We are going to move on to letter B. We are going to do separate votes for all of these. So I'll call them out and say if they pass or fail as we go through. So roll
Before
call.
we do that, I'm a little confused. We didn't get any option here on no lights at all. So that was gonna be an option.
That will be a no vote, and if it.
Two no's.
if there's no-
We already voted on the lights with the secondary access road. This is not the big road. B is the short road in between the schools on the elementary.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
What's the word? So you already voted for that. And
secondary.
Secondary, yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I was the back and forth.
Okay.
And Mr. Williams here, Mr. Stark was gonna bring this up under like C, but we might as well discuss that.
Yeah, under the background information that we have compiled since the last meeting. Jackson Township has a township ordinance of all public streets and parking lots that need like. So we're gonna need but like on both three roads and parking lots.
So can I ask a question with that then? When it says it needs lighting, does that mean? I don't know how vague that is. Like if we have lighting that doesn't work because we've had 2 bad days.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can't even use solar as an option, which I said earlier, we're not recommending because they're there for safety. But if the answer is we shouldn't even be talking about solar?
Well, not talk to them about that, but in that common sense would proceed there to proceed with the electric versus.
All right. So we're voting on B1. This is the SGE secondary access road. The approval of upgrading the 5 25-inch solar powered LED lights to 5 25-inch electrical powered lights. Roll call vote on B1.
Ritz,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Wilson,
yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Baum, yes, Shearer,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Great, motion passes for B1. B2, approval to upgrade 2 manual 12-inch or 12 feet, sorry, gates along the SGE secondary access road to 1 electric road gate tied into the lighting. Roll call vote on B2.
Ritz,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Barshinger,
No.
Baum. No. Wilson,
Yes.
Shearer,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Great, moving on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before we go, I want to go back to A, and can I request that instead of at the next meeting, when we talk about item A again, that you come with the information to the meeting like tonight, that you actually get it to us a week in advance so we can see it before the meeting
Or at least with our packet.
with our packet
In that format.
Yes.
in that format.
Breaks down.
Because if we had done this, had gotten the stuff tonight a week before, we might have called and asked questions. And I think we need to see stuff in advance as opposed to coming to the meeting and then seeing it at the meeting.
There is a buildings and grounds meeting scheduled for June 30th, so that might be a good opportunity, and then all that information can be emailed out to everybody, so we have it in advance of all of it. That'd be great, thank you. Great, moving on to C1A, then, is that correct?
Right, C1A is
to
Changing.
upgrade
Same
from
thing that we just did with B1, switching from solar
solar
to
to electric.
hardwired electric.
You need to vote on item one first.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Separately.
Oh, okay,
You don't have to vote yet.
Yeah.
Right.
sorry. Okay, voting on
But that's what my question was on this one. Where is the price without the lights on here?
we
That's,
can't.
that's the background.
We gotta
information.
have lights in every road lit 24/7 at night.
So it says.
I thought we have
Jackson
lights right now that on time is to go out.
No,
Well, that's what we were told.
There, we do have their parking lot site lighting going out at 11:30 at 11:30.
Is that in compliance with what they're asking for?
Yes, they, any place that we have, entrance and entry and exit and potential darkness, we need lights. So even in the winter time, when it doesn't get light until 7:30 and we start school at 7, we have students coming in, it's dark to death.
So what did Jackson, like this background information at the bottom? And I apologize, I'm just trying to get to what I think Mr. Shearer is asking. If we turn them off at 11:30 and we turn them back on when? When it's not light, like when do the lights come back on? Ballpark, it doesn't have to be.
When do they come on? When do they come on?
what are the timers?
So they go off at 11:30, what time is it?
6 a.m.
6.
6 a.m. Okay, is that in compliance with this background information that says if we have a road, that we have to have lights? It's just that we have to have lights relative to when people are going to be there, or we have to have them on 24/7?
Yeah.
If it's like, do we have to have them all the time if it's not?
They
like
did not make any note on any specifications on. So that's something that we need to clarify with them.
All right, roll call vote on C1
For the road.
for the road. Yes.
No.
Ritz,
No,
Shear,
No,
Stein,
No,
Wilson,
No,
Ramsey,
Yes.
Baum. No. Wirball.
Yes,
So if there's no road, the whole thing's done. We don't have an
we don't
agency.
have a road. The road did not pass. Okay. All right, moving on. To transportation with Mr. Ritz.
transportation board actions requested, item A, bus van drivers. Approval of the following additional contracted crisis bus company drivers for 24-25 school year to include the summer program as listed. So moved transportation.
Second, any discussion? Roll call vote on transportation.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Baum. Yes. Shear,
yes,
Stein,
yes,
Barshinger,
Yes.
Wilson,
yes,
Ritz.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes. All right, moving on to management reports policy with Mrs. Ball.
Policy board actions requested. Letter A, first reading, approval of the first reading of the following policies. Policy 006, board meetings. Policy 146.1, qualifying for care. Policy 707, use of school facilities. With A, policy 707 attachment, and policy 904, public attendance at school events. Letter B, 25-26 student parent handbook, approval of the attached code of student conduct and general operating procedures in accordance with board policies to be included in the core section of the 25-26 student parent handbook relevant to all students at the K-12 educational levels. Letter C, York Adams Academy Joint Operating Committee member, approval for Karen Bach to continue as board representative on the York Adams Academy Joint Operating Committee for the 25-26 school term. Letter D, student representative, authorization for Cameron Little to serve as student representative to the school board of school directors for the 25-26 school year and be a non-voting member. Donations, letter E, acknowledgement and or acceptance of the following donations in accordance with board policy 702, gifts, grants, and donations. So moved on board policy actions.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote on policy.
Baum. Yes. Ramsey,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Moving on to personnel with Mr. Stein.
Personnel board actions requested. Item A, collective bargaining agreement approval of the agreement between Spring Grove Area School District and Spring Grove Education Association for the period August 18, 2025 to the last day prior to the first scheduled teacher workday for the 29-30 school year. Item B, resignation, acceptance of the following resignation. Item 1, Caitlin Boyer, learning support teacher. Item C, classified substitute, approval of following substitute. Item 1, Cynthia Barrett, classified substitute. Item D, extended school year support staff, approval of following. Item 1, Denise Klein, secondary PCA. So moved on personnel.
Second, any discussion?
We have a separate vote on item A.
No more discussion. All right.
Just one point of order, President Corball. I just, as you go into this. Thank you. Go on. Thank you. Third time. As you go into this lofty decision, I just wanted to thank the negotiations team for the work that they put in. And I wanted to thank SGA for the work that their negotiation committee under, their leadership put in to come to this agreement. And I recommend that the approval of the agreement take place. And I thank the board for considering that.
Great. Roll call vote on personnel letter A.
Shear,
Yes.
Baum, abstain. Stein,
Abstain.
Ritz,
Yeah.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Okay. Personnel letters B, C, and D.
Stein,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yes.
Baum, yes, Wilson,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Moving on to curriculum with Mr. Barshinger.
Curriculum board actions requested A, textbooks, materials, approval to purchase the textbooks and resources listed in the attachment as a part of the curriculum rewrites cycle for the 2025-2026 school year at a total estimate cost of $118,593.22. B, overnight conference requests. 1, approval for Mr. Lau and Ms. Landis as adult chaperones to accompany 2 high school students to the National Student Leadership Summit and July 14th to 17th, with the PIAA covering costs for travel, hotel, and meals. And 2, approval for Bill Stiles to attend the PASBO Leadership Institute at the Omni Bedford Springs in Bedford, PA, July 8th to 9th at no cost to the district. So moved.
Second,
Sure.
any discussion? Roll call vote on curriculum.
Ritz,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Baum, yes, Wilson,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. Now moving on to athletics and music, we're going to keep it with Mr. Barshinger.
Athletics and music board action requesting a overnight conference approval of Mr. Lau to attend the PA State Athletic Directors Association Executive Council Annual Conference with mileage and accommodations covered by PSADN. So moved.
Second,
Sure.
any discussion? Roll call vote on athletics and music.
Baum, yes, Ramsey,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yeah.
Wilson,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Rohrbach.
Yes. All right, I will be adjourning the regular voting meeting and calling to order the Director's Study Forum. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, moving to the Business and Finance Committee. Or shall we actually come to that? Okay, sorry, crossing that off. Management Committee, Personnel with Mr. Stein.
Does anyone need executive session for the confidential memo for our next voting meeting? Seeing none, move it on.
All right, any items to be considered for future agendas from the board? Right, seeing none, motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?